Okay, welcome to episode 73 of Biomassed. And just before we get started, we had a couple of words that we wanted to put out for people. It's no big surprise, but we have a small occurrence or a happening going on tonight. So in honor of that, I would like to bring you a reading tonight. It's an oldie but a goodie, and hopefully we'll be able to put a new modern spin on this. I see the bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today. But do not go around tonight. Well, it's bound to take your life. There is a bad moon on the rise. Okay, so Creedence Clearwater Revival brought to you by a faux Arnold Schwarzenegger, aka that's totally for Jadek Menaheim, by the way. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started tonight. No joke. We do have a little bit to talk about in terms of Dust news because we had the recent Hotfix FoxFour announced by CCP Rattati, which started some feedback threads, and then he actually laid out kind of the spreadsheet by numbers of kind of what he's going to change, and it's a lot. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of different things going on in there to kind of unpack, and we'll be able to take that sort of piece by piece. So we do have kind of a neat show on tonight because we actually have a sitting CPM member that's going to stay awake, we think, tonight. That's going to be pretty awesome. We also have one of the more respected CPMs on, so should be pretty interesting. Let's see, who else do we have? We have a former CPM on, like we usually do. We can't really get rid of him. He's sort of like herpes.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm all there for you. And then we've got 2 or 3 other people that are legitimately out there trying to figure out if they can see the supermoon eclipse or the blood moon eclipse or whatever the hell we're calling it tonight. All I know is if I don't see zombies and werewolves by like 2 o'clock this morning, some shit's fucked up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and knock out some intros, and we're going to go ahead and start with the one and only Soraya Zell.
Hi, I'm Sarai Zell, a former member of the CPM, a co-host here on the show, a writer on the blog, and a very, very distressed former Swarm Launcher user.
Okay, so we've already foreshadowed the hate and rage and the bitterness that we're going to have out tonight. So every time you hear somebody throw out anything that sounds remotely like bitter or ragey, I would like you to reach over with your right or left hand, depending on shooter preference, and pick up your alcoholic beverage of choice. Let's have a drink, and then we'll continue to go. So hopefully we can snowball this thing into kind of a short show. So in about 35 minutes, we should be drunk off our ass. Okay, moving on. Mr. Bait.
I am Aiwha Bait. I'm a member of the Incorruptibles, writer at the Biomassed blog, and yeah, I'd also like to tack on to our new drinking game. Every time you hear swarm launchers or forge gunners or fuck you, 2 shots for those underage. I'm sorry, guys. I feel your pain.
This could be a quick show. And by the way, we'd like to add another forum title in addition to the ones that you laid out to Forgetter of the Mumble Port.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I redid my thing. My Android, I redid it a couple of days ago, so it deleted all my shit. So I've been scrambling around to get it back to normal, and Biomassed was not at the top of the list like it should have been.
Okay, well, you've got your priorities straight. That's good, but kind of serves you right for picking a Google product. Pokey Draven.
I'm Pokey Draven from OSG Planetary Operations, co-host here on the podcast, and I'm actually writing something for the blog this week.
This should be interesting.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, and we've got our guest on tonight, Mr. Darth Carbonite.
Hi, I'm Darth Carbonite, member of CPM2, and here for the tears, perhaps, maybe.
That's pretty good. Can you redo that record scratch again? That was like straight out of the 80s and shit.
Sorry, terrible mic tonight.
No, it's good, man. We're just having fun with you. Let's see, Jadek, are you up on the net? And ladies and gentlemen, Jadek Menaheim is actually here, but he's not here because he's trying to watch the blood moon. He's probably gotten eaten by a werewolf, and he desperately wants to talk about anally fisting tanks. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds. I promise it is a video game, and this is more or less PG-13-ish, kind of on a good day when we're not drinking as much as we are tonight. So, on that note, what we are going to do is we will obviously talk a little bit about the hot fix, as you can imagine, but we normally start off with a CPM update. And traditionally what we've done, and when Zell was on, we would query him about all things CPM. Zell is very eager to have a CPM2, a sitting CPM2 on, so that he can be the one to ask them questions publicly as we asked him questions. So, Bait, are you up to it right now, or do you need to take a minute to stretch out before we open the CPM update up and then let Zell pester you publicly?
You mean Darth? Bait is not a CPM.
Same thing.
Damn, I'm not
He
a
can take
CPM.
my place. I don't mind.
I mind.
No, we all mind. Trust me, Darth. We want you.
So Darth, how's things been going the last I don't know, month, 2 months, 3 months, something like that? Last 2 months?
Pretty awesome, actually. Getting really, really nice to actually be in on what's going on and to actually be able to do something, or at least try to be. Yeah, getting a lot done, or so we think, and it's been great getting to know the CCP guys.
So how much involvement would you say the CPM has had on the contents of this hotfix?
Great deal. A great deal.
He
So
would,
we can-
he would
so we
really
can-
like you to just tell him who is the guy that was
So we can blame
forcing
it all
the
on
form
you.
launcher changes. Just go ahead and do that, and we can just get past this.
Yeah, it's obvious where this is heading, but we're all in it together, so you can blame any one of us or all
Well
of us.
done.
It doesn't matter.
Well done. Zell, just pick a random member and just blame them. We can just focus your
The thing
rage.
is I know it's
Focus
Darth.
your rage.
I know it's Darth because he's the dropship pilot that I had the misfortune of nominating.
Dug your own grave? I don't know. Can
Yeah, I
confirm
did.
or deny?
Hey, nobody had heard of you before I started being like, everybody vote for Darth, man.
Oh,
And
that's
then you
low.
go and stab me right in the back, and you do like 3 swarm nerfs in the first release after you get elected.
These are all allegations?
Yes, they are.
I'm amazed you haven't accused breaking stuff.
I never accused Breakin' stuff as much as I asked him why he let it happen, because he's supposed to be the one that protects the AV role.
And he hates swarm launchers with a passion. He's openly said that.
But he's got to keep the vehicles in check, one way or the other.
Yeah, and he buffed forge guns, which he loves, and you love because you don't use swarm launchers apparently.
That's true, actually. I do use forges almost exclusively now. It's the only AV weapon that actually is effective against dropships.
And we're
So-
saying Breakin' buffed forge guns as if he's the sole power behind what gets created in Dust.
So then
Hey,
tell me,
we asked
Darth,
you how much involvement you guys had in the hotfix. You guys said quite a lot, so you know.
So Darth, something that's been on my mind. Were you the beautiful soul who had my MagSec SMG buffed that you're doing?
I'm not gonna say who did what,
God damn it!
but like again, it was a group effort. So if you're happy about that, we're happy about it. You should be happy.
Oh no, trust me, I'm overjoyed. You can ask anybody in my corporation. When I saw that MagSec buff, oh my god, I was so fucking happy. It's the only sidearm I use is my little MagSec PPO. I love that thing to death.
Nice.
And just to wrap up this question cycle here, Darth, is I've been reading through the Skype chat today, and even Boundless Optimism Pokey is starting to he's reaching the end of his rope here. How should we be feeling? What should we be feeling right now?
You should be feeling depressed, but you should also be repeating the message you have been saying. You should be repeating that you're dissatisfied on Biomassed. You should be repeating it on the forums. Let everybody know that you want more, and CCP will listen to you, and maybe it will happen.
Well, the CCP will listen to you a bit. That's I don't know, that might be a stretch.
Listen is what they'll do. See, we can say. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to
Just-
tell you to shut up because that's clearly not beneficial.
Oh, no.
So-
I would not allow you to attempt to suppress my. I don't know about you, Darth, but I do live in America and I do like my freedom of speech, and I will gladly voice my displeasure for Dust on the current platform. So I will continue to say that we should port Dust, and hopefully you will be the one. You personally will be the one to make it happen.
Yeah.
Don't let me down, motherfucker. I'm counting on you.
I mean, if you're depressed, I'm sorry. We're all feeling it right now, but who knows what the future holds.
Hugs make me feel better, Darth.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring this one back on the rails. In all seriousness, though, what could you provide a general categorization of your first few months as CPM2? Like, is it? I guess this is kind of the interesting question. Is it sort of more access, less access than you, I guess, anticipated going into the process? And do you feel like there is value in what you're providing to CCP?
A lot more access and great value. Yes. So
Good.
I know that's positive, but
No, yeah,
it is
that's fine.
genuinely
But
how I
that's
feel.
fine. I mean, that's and that's the thing. Is it's a different set of perceptions because as you may well know, there is a bit of strife on the CSM side in Eve, which is a much more mature organization or system, and it deals with
Let's
a
go with
far
older. Let's
broader.
not go more mature.
Well, it's the process itself has matured, and the issue is that it's still going up and down in terms of what exactly do they provide to the process versus the people they converse with in the community. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of this unfolds. I guess so. Question to you, Darth. What are the type of things that you see? Well, let me offer it this way. I'm trying to find a way to ask the question that you will be willing to answer. Um, the word's cautiously optimistic, and they'll tell you when they're ready, and a lot of vague, heavy-handed hints from some of the CPM members.
We're happy.
Well, something like that tend to lead people down to certain suppositions that there are things going on behind the scenes in Dust. I'm not going to ask you to say yes or no to that because you won't. But I guess my question is, if somebody were to ask you, is this game worth sticking around for when there's a lot of other games better, newer, shinier, faster to play? Not not on a PS3. What would be your recommendation to that player?
Well, I'd have to purely recommend the game on the grounds of, or on the basis of how good the game is, without any pretense of, without thinking about the future, what it is now. And I like the game now. Not a lot of people do as much as we might, but it helps to have friends. So if you enjoy the game right now, keep playing it. If you don't, I don't mind you taking a break.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, is there anything going on that the CPM can tell us about what they've been working on or what they are personally interested in continuing to champion?
We're really focused on the hotfix right now and seeing how it turns out. After that, we're gonna start working on the future. We've already got a lot of things that we'd like to see tweaked, changed, balanced, etc. But we're really excited to see how this hotfix turns out, and we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you sounding very positive about it. I guess that's a good thing. So, any other specific notes or updates that you wanted to hand out or lay out to the audience?
Don't stop nagging.
Okie dokie. Let me know when they stop when they actually do something other than like fuck with numbers in a spreadsheet, and I might start playing.
I think you'll know when that happens.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Well, has anybody else got any questions for Mr. Carbonite? No. All right. So we're going to turn it over to our favorite part of the show. This is the segment where it's the one time, and I would also reference the fact that it took a blood red moon with an eclipse and some form of a sacrifice to get it to happen, where Zell actually runs part of the show with content. So what we'd like to do is turn this part of the show over more or less
Did
to
I just do this
Zell.
whole thing where I, like last week, where I went over the CSM minutes like day by day and session by session to highlight out the important stuff that might be relevant to Dust players? I did that
no.
like just last week.
Right.
The problem, nobody paid attention to that.
Exactly.
Now you're going to talk about
we
something that
basically
people are
did to
paying
you
attention
what
to.
you do to us every day we do the show. So at this point we're gonna hand the steering wheel of this race car that is flying down the grease track here to Soraya Zell, so we can talk a little bit about Hotfix FoxFour, and like we did mention up front, there are a lot of things in it. And as I somewhat in a douchebaggy kind of way said to Darth, Most of what it is in all fairness, it is a lot of change, and some of it's fairly large. But it is still just moving some numbers around in the quote-unquote super spreadsheet that generates what happens in dust. Now, that being said, that is not to throw a rock at anybody's work on it, because we really don't know what the outcome of some of it is. We can sure guess pretty good on some of it, I think. But again, hot fixes are very tough to understand sometimes when you take them in isolation, mostly because that's all we have is you have to take the changes or the proposals in isolation, because there's no clear picture about anything going on beyond the hotfix. So on that note, Mr. Zell, take it away.
Oh God. All right. So the big thing is that so far this has been dubbed Hotfix FoxFour, which I know someone suggested in a Skype chat or someone somewhere, and I might have copy and pasted it into a channel with CCP and said, "Hey, this is a good name for a hotfix." But the big things, saving the best for last, is shield tanking has been radically buffed, or what he said was radically strengthening the shield recharge rate, recharge delays, and damage thresholds for Caldari and Minmatar drop suits. And they've also reduced the CPU cost of shield regulators. They have changed a bunch of the rifle ranges to bring them much closer to each other. Let's see here. And they tweaked some scrambler rifles or something, and they're actually, I think they said that they're going to try to bring things closer to the Galante assault rifle rather than buffing it up to everything else. One of the interesting ones that is worth noting is after, I think it was CPM0 went to great extent to try to completely murder the impact grenade to the point that no one would carry one, it was so bad. They're actually massively buffing the fused grenades, which are the impact grenades. So they will actually be like a relevant combat option again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that with the Mayos. That's just going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't get to that part, but yeah. So
But that was sarcasm, by the way, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, everybody, quick, take a drink.
So yeah, they increased the melee damage on drop suits, and they nerfed myofibs, right?
Correct.
What? Why am I leading a hotfix chat? Anyways, I didn't read most of this before I went on the show. I mean, come on, man.
This is a well-oiled professional machine, folks.
I did not expect to be doing this whole thing. So we'll get to all of those things later. But so the big thing is that CPM2 has right and justly destroyed AVV balance as much as they could in one patch. So they're trying to make Caldari HAVs stronger compared to the Galante ones. They have, whether or not they agree with it, they have massively promoted dropships by making only one weapon now able to kill them, or at least more so than they were before. And the big interesting thing is they have made it possible to melee kill a tank. Mass drivers can now be somewhat useful AV weapons, and they have massively increased the damage bonus for hitting the weak spot, which is the back of tanks, the the engine pods on dropships, and the wheels of labs. Or did they only do the weak spot increase for halves? Do you know?
Let me look.
I believe it's just for the HAVs currently.
Yeah, I think it's just tanks.
Oh, okay. So we really are really making it hard to kill something with kill dropships. Got it.
Are you trying to insinuate that Darth is the more successful version of Judge that Judge thought he was going to be?
I am. You see, Judge had this whole thing where he said, he made these outlandish statements like 50 KDR is okay, and that, and that's just, the way he was he would just say, this is what, that's like, balanced. Whereas Judge, Darth's keeping quiet here. He's not volunteering anything, but suddenly Swarm Launcher's got like 3 nerfs in a row, and
It's also important to know for those of you who don't read the forums that Rattati has stated in the thread in question that the idea of a anti-air specific version of swarms, likely the assault swarm launcher, is on the table for discussion. So while Zell is going to insinuate that dropships are now unkillable, they are looking at options for making swarms specifically for killing dropships.
But I mean, so swarms have always been, to be blunt, one of the few effective weapons against dropships. They're better at going against dropships than halves, because when you're fighting halves, you're often fighting with terrain in the way, and it's a lot harder to aim. The slow speed of swarms means halves are generally going to be behind something before your swarms get over to them. They're not very good at going against halves, but so they've completely removed the anti-dropship potential of them with the most embarrassingly minimal range that you could ever give an AV weapon, and said, well, maybe at some point we might have an anti-air swarm launcher, and that defeats the point. If anything, they should have made these focused on making the swarm launcher anti-dropship, because they already introduced 2 new weapons to kill halves in this hotfix.
See, that's why with the lowering of the swarms from the AV pedestal, a new weapon has risen to take its place, and that weapon is the assault HMG. Best AV weapon by far.
Well, but the thing is none of the mass drivers have been added, but you're not going to mass driver a dropship. You can't melee a dropship unless it's parked.
I've seen people mass drive dropships very successfully.
It's got to be low.
Yeah, assault dropships.
I mean,
those fuckers fly low all the time and camp the domination point. That's what I hate. But now
and then they instantly just hit the up button and are no longer threatened anymore. I mean, the thing is, you need a weapon that can go up to go after.
This is true.
After dropships, and they need to have the range to actually be able to chase down a dropship when it's speeding off. Well, yes, forge guns are the only acceptable form of AV right now that can take on a dropship.
Plasma cannons, if you get really, 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 really lucky.
Those have a lot of drop to them too, not as much as the mass driver, but.
This is true.
Depends on how good you are with them.
Mm-hmm.
It also wouldn't surprise me if it's an idea later in the line to introduce an EM style AV weapon. I'm guessing that if that is the plan, they're holding off mostly because, along with the other changes coming in the hotfix, they are attempting to buff the Caldari HAV, which is by far underperforming compared to the Galente HAV. So probably the introduction of a anti-shield AV weapon at the same time would kind of be counterproductive. So I imagine that we'll probably see that in the progression of changes to come. But for example, if you had like a variant of the laser rifle, that would also work well for dropships because that is a longer range weapon that would do quite well against an aerial target.
That's a expansion talk right there. I think if anything like that were to come, it wouldn't come, with our Lord's 1 point, were we on 3 or 4? It would probably come with the next expansion. So you may have to wait a while on that one.
Well, sure. I mean, they obviously want to tweak the shield HVs to make sure they're performing on par with the armor before they start introducing, specific anti-shield weapons. So I don't expect it in the immediate future, but I imagine that's a process they eventually want to go to kind of give more options for AV, particularly since with the addition of the mass driver and flaylock as partial AV weapons, we have a lot of explosive type and very little anti-shield with just the plasma cannon and
don't forget the no knives and the explosive stuff.
Well, true, but those are neutral damage. I'm talking specific, anti-shield. You basically have flux grenades in the plasma cannon. So I think it would be appropriate at some point to bring in an actual laser damage type for the 2020.
Yeah, that would actually be nice. And give the Amar some kind of AV weapon, because at this point, right, every race except the Amar has an AV weapon. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, they are changing the damage type of swarms to a new damage type, which is kind of goofy, but they're calling it explosive missile and giving that damage bonus to the Caldari commando opposed to the Minmatar commando, which will maintain the explosive like your mass drivers and whatnot. So it's still going to do minus 20 to shields, plus 20 to armor, but it will apply to the Caldari commando. So at this point, it's really the Amar commando that doesn't have an AV weapon of its own, which I would like to see happen eventually.
So for clarification, these shield bonuses, or these shield buffs, I should say, is that only being applied to the, is it the Caldari Assault? Or is that being applied across the board, all suits, all roles, all races?
I would say that the buffs are mostly applied to the Caldari and the Minmatar. They're tweaking a few things with the Galente and Amar. I think some are slight buffs, maybe some slight nerfs. It's all in the spreadsheet. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's mostly a buff to the Caldari and Minmatar ones.
Just the assault suits, or
Nope, all of them. All of them.
Perfect. Okay. Because I've been feeling funny about my Caldari Commander for a while now. So I think this will help.
They're gonna look pretty potent. I think the drop suits are gonna probably do quite well. We'll see how that plays out with the new fitting and whatnot. So I think we lost Jay. Probably his connection is.
I got you. No, it's cutting in and out though.
Oh, sorry about that.
Mag 6 buff.
Okay, all right. So let's try to get this on point. So, taking it kind of one piece at a time. We talked a little bit about changing some weapon stats and stuff like that. Might as well go ahead and touch on the rifle piece, which I find interesting. That we continue to struggle to find ways to make the oldest rifle in Dust relevant, and I think we're on iteration 27 of fucking with rifles now. So go ahead, somebody, tee in. I will say this though, I do like the idea of bringing the weapon stats closer in together, but why we thought they needed to be closer to the AR, I don't know.
Because the AR is doesn't do anything and is slightly less like a flare gun than swarm launchers.
No, the AR works really good if you're inside its range. That's the problem. When you start with, Braken actually, I assume, is somewhat the champion of this, because he and I have talked about this quite a bit, and me and him are, or at least we're somewhat on the same page, that they needed to bring the performance in together. What I am continually amazed at is our ability to shape the game where the optimal way to fight is basically inside baseball, not even baseball throwing range, but about as far as you could chest pass a basketball. That's about actually what the optimal range of a lot of these weapons are.
Yeah.
I want you to think about that.
I want to say was it Uprising 1.0 where the range completely disappeared because most of the fall off was just gone? I think that was Uprising 1.0, and it was nasty because you'd spend 20 seconds running at your enemy before you'd be able to actually shoot at them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where I guess what I'm aggravated by is the we have this continual need to go back and mess with these weapons when there's the two core things that are stopping any kind of weapon balance from occurring is the base idea of range, range per weapon in the biracial type, which we took from Eve, which many of us agree that you can't translate those things from Eve into Dust, two dramatic, just utterly different types of games. And then part two is you have some very wonky mechanics that were in place in some of the weapons just to make them feel different, but not really adding a lot to the gameplay, at least I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, you have very large differences in stats, particularly in the range. And then, like you said, you see this a lot with, things like the heat buildup in Amar guns or the recoiling Caldari weapons, or the charge time, even for that matter. Like you said, it was made there to have them feel distinctively different, but at the same time, when they're so different, it's almost impossible to get a proper balance because you're trying to, balance secondary attributes against, DPS and range, and it's just a whole mess. And we've kind of been, shuffling them around for a long time, but I think that we haven't looked at the core issue, which is that those big differences are really what's causing it to be impossible to properly balance them.
Fair point. Let's see. So that effect is that we've brought some of the weapons in closer to the AR in an attempt to make it work better. And the AR pretty much works. I think personally, at least the last time I messed with it, which was quite a while ago, it performed fairly well as long as you were in the range of something that you were trying to hit. That's just my opinion. And I think one of the outputs is some of the drop suit changes where they've added a rate of fire bonus to, I think, the Gal Assault. So we'll see how it works out.
It's not bad that the assault rifle isn't. If you do throw it on that Galente Assault and you don't run like a standard or militia one, though I've had much success with my standard one. But if you run I don't know, I think it's the Glue 5 or no, I'm sorry, the GEC. If you run the GEC or whatever, or the GB9 breach, and anything above that, then you're set with the assault rifle. It's great. Throttling Galante assault suit. Yeah.
I guess I would have preferred to see, instead of pushing the assault variants down to the assault rifle, I wish they kind of would have pushed and pulled them more towards the middle. I mean, kind of like what Jay was saying, is that it does quite well within its range. The problem is that the range is pretty terrible. I mean, you can't, you're often not engaging within a range where it's going to be useful. I mean, we've kind of talked about this before with shields and armor and, relative usefulness. And it's like, well, yeah, it's useful in certain situations, but if that situation only happens 10% of the time, it's not going to be a very effective weapon. So, I kind of would have preferred if they had taken, the top two and brought them down a little bit, and took the bottom two and brought them up. I think that probably would have been better, but we'll see how it goes.
They kind of did that. The assault scrambler rifle and the scrambler rifles are getting the nerfs that they finally need. But yeah, I think the raw rifle isn't being touched this round. Oh no, wait, no, it is. It's getting
No,
a buff
they're
for Kaldari assaults, I think.
No, not really.
well, the assault bonus is going to make the recoil better, but
Okay.
in terms of the base rifle itself, its range. The assault rail rifle, its range is being nerfed.
Oh, okay, cool. I think that'll help, especially those of us running assault rifles, because normally, you're a Galante assault, and with your little
I guess
assault rifle.
let me just ask
Oh, yeah,
a specific question to Darth. Can you describe to us kind of how you guys arrived at using the Galante assault rifle as the thing which to base the other weapons off, at least use that as the baseline for the other weapons? Why did you start it? Because it feels like we started at kind of the low end of at least the range curve, instead of somewhere in the middle. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah, it does. I can't speak to it too much other than that the AR was the focus, and things kind of...
Was that you guys' focus or Rattati's focus?
It was joint. It was
Yeah. When you pause 5 seconds, I already know it's Rattati's because he's pretty much said so on the forums.
well, he is Galente. I mean, that is known. But,
yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's I don't think he's like unfairly basing things on it. But my point is, as he's even shown in some of his posts and it somewhat admitted to, he tends to run that a lot. Therefore, he's much more intimately aware of it. So he's probably more acute to where the issues are with it, which is no different than anybody
else.
Specialize.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He just happens to be the guy who actually can say yes or no, put this in the game or not.
Very true.
Okay. So I guess curious, since you actually have the scrambler rifle named after you, Darth, the changes to the base scrambler and you think that works pretty well for the Amar assault users?
Do I think it will work? Yes. Did it need to be done? Yeah. Looking forward to seeing just how well it works.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. What I'm kind of curious about is when they make changes like this, does it, like, what are the impacts to people who would normally or would try to run a scrambler and not wear an Amar suit? That's where I'll be kind of keen to see how that kind of works out for folks. Much like with some of the other weapons, there's some distinct drawbacks in there, which is probably by design and not a bad thing. But it'll be interesting to see how that turns out, I think.
We are encouraging people to pair weapons with their racial suits. That's pretty obvious.
I think that'd be a great idea. So when are you going to start, like, changing the maps so that people that have long range weapons by racial type aren't gimped the closer they move to the point that they have to take to actually win the match?
Every night in my dreams.
Changing maps.
Oh, goodness. No, I was just curious. That's like one we fenced about on here a long time. Is like when you optimize. Well, it's when you optimize for one thing or the other. The maps, by their nature, and rightly so, don't always give you that thing. So it's sort of, you're kind of in between sometimes.
No, that's understood. there's not much we can do about it.
No, I guess not. Let's see. I honestly don't think maps are real. I mean, you could take the maps that we have now, which are by and large not bad, but you could really. But I still think it goes back to if the maps are, or at least the areas that we fight on, are as big as they are. I'm not really sure why we have this like absolute obsession with shortening the engagement ranges of everything. I mean, look, quite literally, if you go outside and you pick up like a baseball and throw it, like you can throw it about as far probably as like the optimal ranges of some of the weapons that we're dealing with.
I'd agree with that. That's
infuriating. I mean, it's absolutely infuriating to me. So anyway, on to bigger and better things. It looks like there was some discussion about changing a lot of the CPU and PG in some of the slots, particularly the modules in the Biotics family. That should be interesting, I think, in terms of fitting some things. The shield tanking in and of itself, I think, is going to be fun to watch. I'm curious to see how this works out, because one of the other things, again, Dust has a lot of complexity in it, which is good, and it gives you a lot of choice, but it also makes it very difficult to mess with when you start talking about different shoot layouts, or at least slot layouts, rather. And then with an optimized CPU PG, that's what I can't figure out. If there's going to be ever a discussion about, if I have this many high slots versus low slots, am I going to change the CPU and PG or not? If you're not going to do that, we've got some problems, I think, in terms of how we're going to be doing these things.
Yeah, I think that only makes sense. I mean, you've got obviously a focus depending on the high or low, depending on, on what kind of modules that go in there and what to expect players to put in there. And I think having it, if it's all universal, you're going to have some real issues. I think I would have preferred to see kind of a design system where, if the suit has, this many high slots, you have a ratio of, PG to CPU multiplied by that number of high slots, and that's what you get. You can tweak it, obviously, but I think that the oversimplified approach is going to cause issues in the long run, particularly when you're trying to balance and make things work with so many different elements going into the fitting and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think they try to do good work with it, but ultimately, it goes back to, there's a lot of things that really need just a ground up relook in terms of how these things work. By the way, we didn't really mention it, but I am actually mildly surprised that they touched assault suit bonuses. That was, I thought, good. I think that was a good approach at taking. In terms of taking a bigger bite at some things, but I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. Hey, Zell, do you want to go ahead and just tee off on the whole AV thing and just go ahead and get this one going, because we're all just kind of dancing around.
I thought I already did this.
Oh, you did? No, you did. Was this in the pre-show, or did we do it after we started?
We kind of fought it out in the show. I mean, we can do some more. I mean,
no, please, God, no. For the love of God, don't.
Really did screw it up. So we can go back to it if you'd like.
Oh, I'm sorry. It might have been when I cut out. Sorry.
People want us to be bitter. We can go back to being bitter.
We literally have requests for us to be more bitter on Skype.
Well, I would not say that we stopped being bitter. We're just running out of things to be bitter about because we've walked through the hotfix list already. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here that we want to chat about. Hey, random question, Pokey, or any of you guys that tend to run Galente stuff. The rate of fire bonus on the assaults, how do you think that one's going to work?
I can't wait to see how that's going to affect the assault rifle. I'll have to spec into the assault rifle again. Recently respec'd out of it, but I will definitely respec into the Galente assault again. When I ran it, it was great, and it needed a little bit of a kick in the balls, and I think this will be that kick in the balls it needs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned because kind of the reasoning behind it, at least from what I was reading, is that the AR is underperforming, so we gave the assault bonus, a DPS buff to the AR to make it better. And I think that while that's fine, I actually be okay with the assault in general getting a DPS bonus. I have some concerns with only one assault getting a DPS bonus, and I have some concerns with not really addressing the problem, which is the base weapon itself. instead of making it viable just one suit, maybe a less aggressive bonus on the assault and then actually buffing the AR, so it's a little more useful for non-assault suits. But we'll see where it plays out. I'm very cautious about this one. I think it might explode, but we'll see.
Well, I guess. Well, let me ask a random question. Like, if we were to take just the informal poll in here of the folks in the room, well, why does the Galente AR traditionally underperform? Is it purely range, or is it something else like damage delivery, ease of use, or something like that? Like, me personally, I think it's literally like 90% is range. Did anybody else have any other reason why the AR is quote unquote underperforming?
Well, it's one of two things in my mind. It's either the range, like you said, or it's the fact that because its range is so limited, the amount of damage it does within that range is not as intensive as it probably should be. Because you can always increase the damage of a rail rifle, but you can't increase the range of an assault rifle. So I mean that's kind of the gritty of it, is that it's if I catch someone in that range, I should be able to melt them, or I either need to keep the same DPS and increase the range, so I have a little more flexibility, one or the other. And this DPS bonus might fix it, but we'll see.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It had the highest DPS for the assault rifles, other than the assault scrambler, which was like a out in left field thing anyway.
Yeah, I think it's more of an issue like we've talked about before, where because its range difference is so big with the other rifles, that its DPS difference needs to be larger as well, or that range difference needs to be smaller. I think either solution probably would have helped.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Anybody else? Anybody got anything else on why that was quote unquote underperforming? Okie dokie. So, yep, no, tracking. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where I will never understand some of the design choices because we don't understand the overarching theme of what the design is. And actually, that would, in all seriousness, though, Darth, that is actually a valid, I think, asker or question. It is I assume you guys have it, but is there at some point you guys can post, or maybe Rat could post? Here's how I see these races working. Here's how I see, not like physically in the game, but like what are the design themes behind them, or how do you see the races interacting? Because I think that might go a long way to clearing up why certain choices are made. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I'd also like to
perfect
see.
sense.
I'd also like to see the
we'd love to do
vehicle
that.
numbers. Have we asked Darth for vehicle balance numbers to be publicly shared in pretty graphs and stuff?
I don't know, have we? By that I mean, if you could just ask him, or could you let him answer my question, then you can pester him. Go ahead, man.
No, the like overarching design goals and thoughts on where suits should be, the big picture stuff. These are things we think are super important and would really help not only let everybody have a better idea where we're headed, but let our community give better feedback. So it's something we want to do. It's just we got to convince people to do it.
If you're at the point of needing to convince people to do that, like I'm going to go ahead and have a drink on that one. Okay, Zell, please go ahead, continue to pester Darth.
Yeah, Darth, vehicle numbers. Can we get them posted? Can we get them shared?
Just vehicle numbers?
Like,
gotta be more specific.
Like how they perform their KDR, average KDRs, average KDR for AV weapons, that sort of thing. Like, and you have to.
I think spawn death ratio. Is that what you're talking about? Like what they do for the rifles and shit?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta filter out. I mean, obviously, I don't care how much a forge gun kills infantry. We have to be aware of vehicle kills versus, well, we killed people who were in a vehicle, but the sort of relevant information that would let us, put to death any of this whole thing where there's AV weapons that are theoretically overpowered.
Oh yeah, the thought of AV weapons being overpowered, laughable.
It really is, and I want the numbers to prove it, but they're just not out there. Can we get those numbers?
It's possible. Never stop asking.
Can you as our representative to CCP ask for those numbers to be shared with the community?
I sure can.
But will you?
He'll say no. He'll say no.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Now.
Not a question that I have not asked in the past.
Do it now.
More
Ask more.
transparency.
Well, actually, hidden within the poor footed jab there by Zell is a legitimate question, which I think a lot of us, and I think including you publicly, Darth, have asked a couple times, is if we could get, if there would occasionally be some actual data, like gameplay data that comes out to continue to keep folks informed. Like I remember almost defensively, Rattati put some out, reference rifles at some point to justify to people why he was, that were raging at him about change. He's like, well, I changed it because I saw this. Boom. And he throws numbers out. That kind of thing is one, difficult to refute, and it puts things in a much deeper and much more transparent context.
We could save like hundreds of pages of vehicle AVQQ if we just had the freaking numbers.
Well, I think the other yes, I would agree with that to some level. There will always be people that rage in a video game, because that's what people do in video games, because it's not real life, and they don't usually treat people like they do in real life. They treat them like they're in a game, and you'll never be able to interact face to face. Now that being said, though, what to me I find frustrating is the absolute episodic and inconsistent way that CCP communicates some of these things. It's like when it's convenient to them, they in the form of Rattati will occasionally throw some numbers out there. When it's not convenient, or they don't want to answer the question, they just won't, even if it's something relatively innocuous, like the usage rates for certain types of weapons, vehicles, and equipment. I think that would be a legitimate asker. Is again one of those things about some consistency and regularity in terms of how we offer player data. Because again, when I was playing Eve, and even up until this day, I still get the feed. CCP puts out a lot of data from Eve. Now, I acknowledge that's a much different situation over there than it is in Dust, but probably occasionally having some data that comes out of, like, when you're going to put out a hotfix, is like, here's the data we saw, and this is why we wanted to change it based on this and feedback from the CPM of blah, blah, blah. This is why we went this way. I think that honestly would help out tremendously if they ever generate continued content for the game or changes in another hotfix or something. That's my opinion, but I think it is. I think it would play out fairly well for you guys.
It would help, and we need it. It's total agreement.
Okay. Anybody else got anything they want to put out? Reference any of the Hotfix FoxFour notations, drama, and information out there?
Hey, Jadek here.
There you are. Did you actually see the moon?
I did. Yep. Didn't quite get a full ring on that eclipse, but it was quite nice.
Oh, that's pretty legit. Okay, so now that Jadek's back from his werewolf adventure, go ahead and tell us why you are excited about Hotfix FoxFour.
Well, lately I've been doing a lot of melee, and it's going to be really interesting because one of the big things that came out, and was kind of unexpected, is they're adding melee damage efficiency to vehicles, HAVs. I wasn't expecting that. I was running the numbers on it, and you might be able to really put the hurt pretty quickly on a tank. Just fist it to death. No time flat.
Where are you going to fist it, Jadek?
Oh, in the butt, of course. That's where the best efficiency is.
You knew where that was going.
Well, somebody had to tee it up at some point.
Yeah. But what had happened was initially when Rattati dropped the changes, it looked like the melee damage was getting a nerf, but apparently he hadn't intended that. So after things are going to be worked out, commando melee is going to be at a base of 270, and then after stacking your myofibs, which it'll be a little bit more difficult now after they've doubled the power grid requirements. But if you're running like a strictly brawler fit on a advanced Minmatar commando, you should still be pretty fine if you have your fitting skills up. But with a body hit on a tank, I think I've clocked it around 2,500 HP damage. And if you decide to hit it in the back in that little fuel cell, that's an additional 150% efficiency. So that's somewhere around 3,700 damage DPS per second. Because if you have either a sidearm or a equipment out, I found that the animation is a little bit quicker. Maybe that's just like an anecdotal thing I found, but it's you can hit twice per second.
Hadouken!
Yep.
Oh, this is my deep sigh.
Yeah. You've got AV on hand now.
God damn it.
Oh my god, somebody has to link that picture in Skype that you posted on Twitter, Jadek.
That was Pokey that made that one.
Yeah,
Up.
he posted.
Oh, did you make that?
I made it to cope with my intense hysteria. The idea of fisting a tank to death.
Oh my God,
I can't
so
deal with
hard.
it other than the Walking Dead meme. So I'll post that in the
Post it in Skype.
I'll post it in Skype in the feedback thread on the forums
you.
because people need to see it and understand that it's just wrong. You can't fist a tank in the ass until it dies.
I mean, yeah, to the credit of the Min Commando that this is going to work with at best is you have a pretty high profile, so you're going to be standing out pretty well in hitbox. That'll be pretty easy to hit.
Well, you're a fat suit anyway. You're going to be standing out. I
mean, yeah.
But just because.
Yeah. The thing is, yeah. Well, yeah.
Have you tried it with the Min Scout yet?
Oh, I haven't run the numbers yet on that, but
that's not going to be a whole lot lower.
No. But the thing is you have to worry about splash damage after killing a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which there's a way to work around that. It's a glitch where if you stand on top of the vehicle and kill it, you phase underneath the map until the vehicle asset is gone, and then you're spawned back where you were. You don't get splash damage, but you're completely disoriented when you come back to reality.
I guess I don't even know what to say about this one. I can only assume that at some point Rattati or somebody was looking at numbers and they failed their saving throw when they were rolling the 20-sided dice to figure out what shit to change next. And here we go.
It's going to be great. It's going to open up a salt mine.
I'm just without words. I don't.
But yeah, in addition to the melee, I can see the Min Commando in general being a really potent platform for AV because they're also getting a buff to breach mass drivers as AV.
Well, all explosive weapons will now do full damage to vehicles, so mass drivers, flaylocks, and since the Mimitar Commando gets that bonus, it's going to be pretty potent. And it's also might be important to note for those not following the patch notes that we talked about this. They changed the swarm launchers to the Caldari, so the Mimitar Commando will be losing the swarm launcher. They'll be gaining the mass drivers and AV weapon.
Which, I mean, now it seems like we're getting to a point where more people have AV available to deal with HAVs and general vehicles. But it'd be nice to buff the vehicle survivability somehow, and maybe keep those weak points still very viable to damage.
Well, and that's one thing I do have some concerns about. I like the idea of you have to get behind the tank to really wreck it. I think that's a pretty cool mechanic. What I do have issue with, though, is that the way that vehicles have evolved over various patches is that they've moved to a lower HP, higher speed, higher regeneration model, which has, I think, led to a lot of the problems we've seen. I think this weak point mechanic would work a lot better if we had the older version where it was a much higher HP pool, but you regen a lot slower. I'm gonna vomit my mouth and actually agree with Zell on this one, that I would prefer a higher buffer tank style rather than this ultra high regen, because I use tanks fairly regularly as well.
Let us eat away at them over a period of the 5 deaths we take trying to kill them, rather than shooting a bunch of stuff, them getting away with 20% health and coming back 10 seconds later with full health again.
Yeah, I think it would probably be more enjoyable, I think, for both AV and vehicles, because with most vehicles now, I feel like I can pull up, I start taking fire, I've got a couple seconds to do something, and then I have to run away, which is kind of boring. I would rather prefer to have a nice chunk of HP to work with, where I can actually truly tank incoming fire for a while. But
maybe it doesn't come back if you lose it. So
well, come back, but I mean, not a fan of the passive armor repairs. I don't like them, at least not the heavy ones. I like the active, cycle-based reps. So, yeah, I mean, less regening capability, but a lot more HP. I mean, back in the day, you used to have your pretty standard armor fit was well over 8,000 armor, and you just don't see that anymore.
It's also kind of problematic if we did go that path of making it you had to single out those weak points, that swarms had their lock-on mechanic where it's a little difficult to pinpoint that spot when you're using just a general center lock-on point.
Oh, see, Jadek, it's okay. After this hotfix, you won't be using swarms.
I mean, I don't use swarms, but trying to advocate.
Well,
I haven't been using swarms since they took the other 100 meters off their range and made them pointless.
Well, and I mean,
Pointless.
you could actually solve that issue, I imagine, fairly simply. I'm not sure so much on the coding end, but I mean, currently swarms track to the origin point of the model, and in the past that was actually on the ground, which caused issues because the swarms would hit the ground before they would actually hit the vehicle. But I think if you move that origin point to the true back of the vehicle so swarms would actually track towards the back, I think that'd be a reasonable solution, because if you shot in the back, they would then
I
actually
don't
aim
think
for
you
the weak
understand
point.
how many things that would probably break.
Well,
Moving the origin point of a model would probably horrifically break everything that ever intersected or interacted with tanks ever.
Well, they've done it
So,
in the past,
the
though,
whole
is
game.
my point. Is that like I said, it used to be on the ground, and they actually moved it up to the true center of the vehicle. So, again, I don't know the nuances of how much they can actually change, but I think that would certainly be a reasonable solution, that if you get behind a tank and launch a swarm, it's going to actually go for that weak point directly. I think that's certainly fair. But yeah, we'll see how well this weak point concept works out with the current mobility and speed of vehicles. I think it would work better and be more tactically meaningful if the vehicles were slower and actually had to consider their approach and their angle of engagement and whatnot. But we'll see. Vehicles are not exactly where I would have liked. I had hoped that the rebuild would have gone more towards that higher HP, lower regen model, but it is what it is.
There's
Well,
also the MP experience too. Doesn't seem like many people have known that there's a weak point on the back of these tanks.
I had no idea.
I don't know how you didn't know. This is
Because it doesn't
Nobody
appear
told me.
anywhere in the game. There's
Nope,
but
nobody told me.
It's
I
the only
have
way to
never-
effectively do anything AV wise is to hit them in the weak points more often than not.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's this thing called teamwork, where you get a squad, a 4-man squad.
Okay, it shouldn't
When-
it shouldn't take a squad of 4 people to kill one
doesn't
player
take a
in an
squad.
overpowered as heck
It
class.
doesn't. It doesn't. It takes about 2 people. You get 2 people, wear commie swarms, level 5 proficiency, level 5
Okay,
and you're good. 2
Fine,
people.
it shouldn't take 2 max level AV players to get
You're
one
right, it
player
shouldn't.
in an overpowered class.
You're right. You're right. It shouldn't. It should take at least advanced, but still.
Well, in the standard
can be
modules
done.
on vehicles are pretty terrible too.
The standard
Work is
question
OP.
is, do standard swarms have a purpose in existing?
No.
The answer is no. So there's a
They
problem.
should go.
Swarms need a buff.
I think they can kill the crappy LAVs pretty well.
No, they can't.
Anything can kill an LAV.
The LAVs are terrible. Those need some work as well.
I run AV to shoot LAVs and giggle. It's the most fun thing ever.
I'll tell you,
to
I originally
see some schmuck driving down the road and just firing swarms and giggling the whole time, and then poof.
I originally
Motherfucker's
spec'd
dead.
into swarms during the whole murder taxi fiasco. Because that's when I started swarms, and it was so much fun because everyone had a car and everyone died. It was great.
Well, and the fun part is that people again don't know about the weak points in vehicles, and LAVs, if I recall correctly, is the hood of the car, and so
I
I'd have a blast.
thought it was the wheels.
Which is the stupidest thing
I thought it was the
ever.
hood, but regardless, I remember running around with a maxed out plasma cannon, people trying to run me over, and just one-shotting them right in the face because, with max skills, you can pretty much nuke LAVs in one shot, which is amazing.
Oh yes.
I actually remember back in the day when the unfit militia LAVs were really popular, and you could throw the AV grenades on the ground, and then as they rolled by, they'd get sucked up into the undercarriage of the vehicle and blow them up in one hit. That was amazing.
I mean, I had my BPO lav, and I think I had enough BPO vehicle modules that I could fit on it to make it able to survive just about any first shot. So that I mean, if you have it tanked well enough that you get one shot and you're like, okay, I took a shot, it's time to get out. And then you'd know your car was about to blow up. But I would never suddenly blow up the way I had my lav fit. And it was a free lav fit. It just was, I had some BPO modules on top of it.
Well, I think lavs are a point that need to be really looked at again pretty extensively.
Yes.
They're
well,
I mean, Rattati says some quick
supposed to be-
fixes, but they're not quite right.
They're supposed to be a combat platform, but
they're not
we were
supposed to be able
we
to
were
be
supposed to
killed in one
get
shot.
an actual transport mechanic. We were supposed to get like some sort of little speeder or something. And the thing is I feel like lavs should almost be as powerless as they are right now, and that everyone should just get them. Because the thing is that it, like, if you play Dust without an access to call in BPO lavs whenever you need one, it's so painful. There's so much just running, endless swaths of open space.
Well, then lavs are absurdly expensive ISK-wise for what you get out of them.
Yeah, and the BPO lav is probably the best thing I ever spent any money on, cost-benefit wise.
Yeah, I'll buy that. That's pretty legit.
You just need some sort of rapid transport option in the game.
Well, I remember, before Respecs came out, I actually put a lot of time and effort into beefing, actually playing with lavs, like tricking them out pretty good, and not just not the logi lav like murder taxi thing, but literally like trying to beef it up like a combat platform. And the reality is, even after sinking a pretty fair amount of SP into it, you weren't getting enough out of it. You could get pretty good at some niche things, like even Cross and I would do it. I had a pretty dolled out LAV setup, and we'd run a small rail in the back, and we would both have AV sets on it. And he and I could pretty much, for a while, we could really make life difficult for a lot of vehicle players. Like, generally, if you were a B+ player and above, we could annoy you at best. And that was me and Cross really trying to put the wood to them with a lot of effort. But if you were lower than a B+ player, we were probably going to crush your ass, and we could chase you down in the lav. And it was strong enough it could survive enough that you could break contact if you needed to. But that was a lot of SP and two pretty good players getting after it in a lav. It's definitely not something that is I would recommend. That's not those aren't tactics that you can take somebody who's been playing for less than 6 months and then have them reliably replicate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the lav kind of just eventually turned into kind of the de facto transportation vehicle and really not much more. I think that's partially fault of losing any sort of specialties, and as well as the small turrets still remaining largely ineffective on the ground platforms like that. I would hope that we get some variation in the future to make it effective, so you can actually do like what you were describing to a better extent. But currently it's just not there.
I don't know. What other functionality could you give them? Like a cloak, maybe, or something like that?
I don't know about a cloak, but maybe like a scanning platform. I mean, I've said in the past that I've liked to see vehicles as a means to do similar things that infantry can do, but on a larger scale, but maybe with less efficiency. So like a scout LAV, for example, could have bonuses to active scanners, not to the extent that you see like on a handheld infantry scanner or a scout, but something that they can kind of drive past and do a loop around, a complex and do an omnidirectional scan and pick up, a large majority of suits that aren't dampened or something like that. I think you could add some interesting functionality, and, it would be nice to see vehicles have more of a role than just transport or killing things, which is really all we have right now. And that's also a big part of the problem in trying to establish, how they should perform and whatnot, because, if an HAV isn't good at killing infantry, it really doesn't have a purpose, which, is not good.
Yeah, no, I'll buy that. Like I've tried setting them up for like recon fits where you put like a scanner in the vehicle and you basically do like patterns, like search patterns around the map, like with nitro on, to try to get the best scan you can squeak out of it, and it's it could be relatively effective, to a degree. But like I said, I'm all in if we can come up with other things that they can do outside of shooting and moving three people. I'm not really sure what they can actually put in the game to be frank with you.
Yeah, the game modes aren't set up for it, which is unfortunate. Like we've mentioned before, Skirmish 1.0 had a distinctive use for HAVs, and we obviously lost that and lost that purpose with it. So it kind of put vehicles in a weird limbo where they don't really have a distinctive purpose other than what we see now, which is rather shallow, and it does cause issues.
Fair point. Okay. Any other saved rounds on any topics for tonight before we kind of start to close this out?
I had something that was brought to my attention by Ripley.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
A week ago. We were talking about just random logi bullshit. And he had the brilliant idea. I loved this when I heard it to essentially remove all militia equipment, and so that there's just standard, and then take standard equipment and make a BPO out of it with exceptions. So like the shit that logis use, like your nanohives, your injectors, your tools, and your uplinks, make those BPOs and just give those to everybody. Obviously, you wouldn't give out a BPO cloak or a BPO RE or anything like that. But essential logi equipment, just make it a BPO and give it to everybody, so that because equipment does cost a lot of freaking money, especially if you buy in bulk, which normally you do as a logi. So making it all a BPO would really help out the new players who were just trying to get into a role that they can make as quickly, or even the role that they plan on staying in forever throughout their desk career, what little time of it is left. I wanted to see what you guys thought about this.
Well, I certainly think it's an issue, the ISK investment involved with logistics. And Cross and I have talked about this in a great extent, in that logistics, without a doubt, is the most expensive infantry role you can play. I mean, it's just absurd. I'm not sure how I feel about making an entire tier, or at least a large section of a tier of equipment, be free. That's just the E player in me going, you shouldn't just have BBOs rolling around like that for standard equipment.
No, sure.
But
Okay, then
it's, you understand my reluctance in agreeing to that bit.
No, sure, I can see that. Then you should. Then what should be looked at then is maybe an alternative to that. Then if some people don't feel that that's something that they would be comfortable with, is then sharply reducing the equipment cost of or the cost of equipment on all levels, I would say, because some of it is just ridiculous, how much it costs. Even the advanced or even standard, which is what I mostly run on my Logi suit. It's expensive, and it really shouldn't be that expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to look at that. Carrying that equipment adds a level of utility to the character, and that utility has value. So you certainly want a cost associated with it. But like you said, I think reducing the price for all tiers to varying degrees would probably be appropriate, because it does get really absurd in how expensive, particularly on the proto end compared to other roles, how expensive a logistics can be. So yeah, I think lowering the price in a responsible manner that makes sense would certainly be an acceptable solution in my book.
Yeah, I was sitting here kind of thinking through that, Bait. Conceptually, it might help a little bit. The bigger picture is kind of like Pokey said. It's what is the BPO issue now? So one thing I would say about that is that I kind of stopped. You really have to stop equating Dust and Eve economic structures because of things like Apex suits and all this other stuff. So conceptually, I'm kind of okay with it. I think getting rid of militia stuff is probably okay. I'm not really sure what ultimately, just in general, because I don't really know what it does for you at this point.
It doesn't do anything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it takes up space.
There is something that probably is, since right now we're more or less in the business of simplifying the game. If you think about it, it's still a very, very complex game. Well, let me check that. It is complicated because of the number of competing factors that generate in-play stats and outcomes. It is not complex in that, that implies ambiguity. So from a complicated standpoint, yes, I think we should eliminate all militia things, keep it down to the 3, well, really 5 tiers counting officer and experimental. So really that's eliminating 1 of 6 tiers of equipment, which I think is fine. There's something to that in terms of just simplifying it. I would also tell you that I totally agree with Pokey that trying to run Logi, at least historically, has been a very spendy proposition, particularly when you start looking at the number of suits you can lose real quick. So there, when you're running if you run like a full proto suit, like really maxed out, you're easily hitting, two bills off that thing easily. Most serious proto suits, like when you're playing real Logi, you're running into about 215 to 235,000, depending on kind of shooter preference on your taste of equipment. So that's just
nightmare,
ridiculous, to pay for a single suit. And yeah, I got the whole but you shouldn't be running proto. I was like, well, I got news for you. Unless you want to run proto equipment, you're not going to be that effective of a Logi, because most of the equipment, the drop off between proto and advanced and standard is greater than it is for almost any other category of equipment or weapon in the game in terms of efficacy during the match.
And that's probably worth looking at as well. If you've got big gaps in efficiency, it might be worth reevaluating what the tier difference should really be between standard, advanced, and proto. I'm sorry, Bait, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just going to throw out that I beg to differ that you to be an effective Logi, you need to run full proto.
No, I didn't say that. What I'm saying is the difference between the two. You get to the point where you'll run advanced gear all the time, or you'll run everything advanced, but your Logi equipment will be proto because of the difference in performance. It's not about a single source suit of everything being on it. So you'll proto that before you'll put a weapon on, if depending on how important it is to you. But when you look at the skill, the difference between standard and advanced for most forms of equipment is not that big. The difference between advanced and proto, very big.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that.
Okay. All right. So any other save rounds for the show tonight, guys? Alrighty. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do some shout outs, and we'll kind of go ahead and land this one for the evening. Zell, we'll lead off with you.
I'm going to give my shout out to Ritati for giving us something to talk about this week. And I'm going to beg that he gives us something more to talk about next week.
Okie dokie. Well, that's going to keep me from talking about other games that I'm trying to play. That's unfortunate. Okay. Bait?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to the first dev to have his name on a hotfix, CCP FoxFour. Shout out to you, bro. I can't wait to hear you deliver the official hotfix patch notes, or the official hotfix notes in the dev blog. That would be very exciting. I love the changes that you have proposed. They're great. Shout out to CCP Ritati for helping CCP FoxFour with these changes. Amazing job. Shout out to the CPM for helping those two people. Shout out to Ripley Riley's cock. And shout out to my corporation. Love you guys.
I'm assuming you're paying a lot of money. Let's see. Pokey.
Absolutely not.
My shout out will go to the first person who successfully fists a tank in the ass until it dies. You should feel disgusted with yourself because it's just
video
wrong.
evidence is what we want.
Yeah. Well, I'll actually probably give you something because it's wrong. But yeah, I kind of want to see it happen. And also a shout out from Cat Merc. The cat sends his regards.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Jadek, any shout outs?
Yeah. Fisters unite, buy Aurum today.
How very Denny of you. And to our special guest, Darth Carbonite, CPM2 member, any shout outs from you, brother?
Shout out to Random Guns, and shout out to the community who are about to experience what we've been working on. Good luck to you all.
Okay. All right. And it's Jason Larison, and I have no major shout outs tonight. We don't even have any minor ones, but I do appreciate everybody bearing with us tonight, and I really, really do appreciate Darth coming on and being a good sport and having a quick chat with us. So, again, good stuff out there in terms of somebody still attempting to work on the game. We acknowledge all that, so we do appreciate the work of some of the folks over in Shanghai. Even if our frustration with the greater machinations of CCP are just totally elude us about some things. So with that, folks, we appreciate you joining us for episode 73 of Biomassed. So good night and good luck.